When a CEO's mute daughter met a poor boy at the park, the shocking truth was revealed. In the heart of the city, where the sun barely had time to shine through the skyscrapers, a park sat tucked away, a green oasis smothered by concrete. On one blustery afternoon, it was the meeting ground for two lives set on a collision course. The playground was alive with laughter, but one sound was oddly missing. The little girl, Mira, sat alone on a swing. The air around her was thick with curiosity. She wasn't speaking any words. She couldn't. At 8 years old, Mira was mute. Her bright blue eyes held more secrets than the city's hidden alleys. Rumors swirled about her family, a CEO so powerful that his very name sent ripples through boardrooms and coffee shops alike. But Mira was different. There was an air about her, a haunting depth that intrigued everyone who dared look her way. She often watched the other kids, her fingers fidgeting with the beads on her bracelet, as if the colors were whispers of stories she couldn't share. Every swing of the rusted chains echoed a silent plea, a longing to connect. Across the park, a boy named Jay rushed in, his sneakers scuffing against the gravel, his tattered jeans the only reminder of a life of struggle. He was drawn in by her stillness, curious about the girl whose silence felt louder than the voices around them. The moment his eyes locked with Myra's, the world around them faded. Children ran and played, but all he saw was her soft gaze, a spark of mystery illuminating the shadows of the day. Jay's heart raced as he approached, each step filled with uncertainty and anticipation. Something about her felt special, like she carried a weight far beyond her years. But as he got closer, a gut-wrenching gasp erupted from a nearby group of parents. "What is he doing?" one mother whispered, clutching her child. The tension became palpable. Eyes widened, and murmurs erupted. A poor boy, standing in front of the CEO's daughter? The air turned electric, heavy with judgment. It felt like all of society was holding its breath, waiting for anything to happen. Mira noticed them too, her expression a mixture of fear and hope. Would she be accepted? Or would the whispers shatter the fragile moment between them? As Jay knelt to her level, she hesitated, the air thick with unspoken communications, words that rushed like a river through their heads, waiting to burst free. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Then, as if the universe were watching closely, the swing squeaked loudly, and the parents broke into hushed chaos. Someone shouted, "What is going on over there?" Every set of eyes turned, focusing on the two. It felt like the weight of the world bore down on them, a stifling pressure ready to explode. Jay held out his hand, a simple gesture bursting with promise, but the ground beneath them trembled with fear and disbelief. What secret linked their worlds so closely together? Would Mira take that leap of faith, or would she pull away, leaving Jay standing in the shadow of gossip and speculation? The moment hung in the air, thick like fog in the early morning, just waiting to reveal its chilling truth. Myra's heart pounded like a drum in her ears as she gazed at Jay, the brave boy kneeling before her. She saw kindness in his tear-streaked face, a light amidst the gathering storm of whispers. Could she step into that light, or would she fold under the pressure of scorn? Time stretched, an eternity suspended between their unspoken words. The whispers grew louder around them, a cacophony of judgment. "Why is he even talking to her?" one mother hissed. The others nodded in agreement. Jay's timid smile faltered under the weight of those stares, yet he didn't retract his hand. It was both a lifeline and a risk that Myra's mind raced. She was used to the silence, but this moment felt different. She wanted to reach out, to know this boy who saw her when no one else did. The swing creaked, and her breath caught as fear mingled with hope. Slowly, she brought her tiny hand forward, bridging the chasm between them. Just as their fingers brushed, a shout shattered the air. "Mira, come here this instant." A tall figure emerged from the throng of parents, his voice a thunderclap. It was her father. The smoke of chaos around her thickened, his looming presence casting a shadow over their fragile connection. He was known in the boardrooms as a titan of industry, but here, now, his fury could crush the innocent bond budding between the two children that in an instant. Jay recoiled, the world shouting at him from every angle. Myra's heart sank as she saw the terror in his eyes. The warmth of their moment faded like sunlight disappearing behind dark clouds. Mira, her father barked again, his stern expression tightening like a vice. The tension was undeniable, a tangible wall between them. For a fleeting moment, Mira wished she could scream. She wanted to tell her father that Jay wasn't just some boy. He was different, a bright spark in her silent world. But her voice was locked away, chained by circumstances. She had to think fast. Suddenly, a glimmer of defiance ignited within her. She turned to Jay, their gazes locking, and for a heartbeat, she imparted everything she yearned to say. A storm of emotions swirled within her: fear, longing, fierce belief that she would not be ruled by the judgments of others. Then, without thinking, she hopped off the swing, the gravel crunching beneath her small feet. She rushed to her father, determined to stand her ground. But almost instantly, she felt the suffocating weight of his disapproval wrap around her like a shroud. "Why do you engage with someone like him?" he spat, his tone sharp. Jay stepped back, the distance between them filling with doubt. Fear of retribution prickled his skin, and he started to retreat into the shadows, the potent judgment weighing down on him like an anchor. Mira felt a tear escape her eye, a reflection of loss not just for him, but for herself, her voice, her identity drowning beneath family expectations. "Wait," she half-whispered, panic rushing through her veins. But Jay merely glanced back one last time, a question in his eyes. She reached out to call him back, emotions raw and unfiltered. In that brief moment, she felt the crushing weight of solitude that accompanied silence. And then he disappeared into the crowd, leaving her alone with her father's fierce gaze. The parents' stares cut sharply, whispers hissing, and Mira realized she had just opened a door she might never be able to close. What would happen next? Would her father's world suffocate her hope forever? Or would fate grant her another chance to connect with the boy who saw her for who she truly was, longing to break the chains of silence? As her father loomed nearby, the park felt smaller, tighter, and a storm brewed within. One question echoed in her mind. Was it too late to change everything? Mira's world spun as her father's words struck her like icy rain. She tried to stand tall, but the power of his disapproval felt like weights strapped to her shoulders. "Someone like him?" she echoed, not knowing if the question was intended for him or for her. She searched for Jay, but he vanished among the throng, leaving her with only the bitter sting of regret. "Mira, focus!" Her father barked again, and she shrank under the force of his gaze. Tears pooled in her eyes, threatening to spill over. She felt small, trapped in a web of expectations that tightened with every passing second. The parents around them muttered, glancing toward the park's edge as if Jay's absence confirmed their snobbish judgments. "Doesn't he know she is not one of them?" a mother whispered to another, and Myra's heart ached at the words. They didn't know him, didn't know his kindness, or how he saw her beyond the silence. "Why did you let him get that close?" Her father continued, the frustration rising in his voice. "Do you think I worked my entire life for you to associate with someone like him?" The disdain dripped from his words, each sinking into her like daggers. Mira clutched her hands, flexing her fingers where they had brushed against J's. It felt like a farewell, and she wanted to shout at the world that connections mattered more than appearances. But she remained silent, her voice lost in the swell of his condemnation. "Choose your friends wisely," he warned, his tone final, essentially placing an invisible barrier around her heart, a reminder that anyone outside their circle was judged before they even stepped foot inside it. She nodded, even though inside she felt ripped apart. The honesty in J's eyes had sparked something in her, a flicker of hope she stubbornly clung to, but in that moment, it slipped through her fingers like sand as they walked toward the car. Each step felt like a surrender. Mira's emotions thrashed against her insides. It wasn't just about Jay, it was about her. Every time she followed the expectations of her father and the community, she lost another piece of her soul. She could feel it, like a dimming light, and the darkness of silence threatened to swallow her whole. Arriving at their vehicle, Mira hesitated. The sleek black car felt like a prison. Her father opened the door, but she stalled, glancing back at the park one last time. What if she didn't have to live inside the restrictions of her father's world? What if she fought to find her voice and reach out to Jay again? Mira, he snapped, and the urgency in his tone jolted her. She sucked in a breath. Dad, enough. His eyes blazed with anger. You don't understand how these things work. A pulse of defiance surged within her. But I want to try, she blurted out, surprising herself with the boldness of her own words. What if I make my own choices? He stepped back, astonished, into a silence that filled the air like tension before a storm. Mira felt the rush of adrenaline, the tremor of fear, and a sliver of hope, all mixing within. Could she stand her ground? In that moment of suspended disbelief, she heard a soft voice rising above the murmurs, calling from the depths of the park. Mira. It was Jay, standing just beyond the shadows, uncertainty etched across his face. The world around her seemed to fade, leaving only the two of them. This was her chance, her moment to reclaim her voice. But would she risk everything to chase after it? The question hung in the air, charged with possibility. Before she could think too long, her father's hand clamped down on her shoulder like an iron shackle. Get in the car now. Mira turned to Jay, the weight of her father's grip anchoring her, and in that fleeting gaze, everything hung in the balance. What would she choose? Would she dive into the unknown with Jay, or retreat into the safety of her father's world? Her heart thumped loudly in her chest. The choice felt monumental. Would she act, or would she be confined forever? Mira's heart raced as she felt her father's grip squeeze tighter. She wanted to yank herself free, to sprint toward Jay, the swirling doubts and fears evaporating in the face of her resolve. But the chain of obligation was heavy, and she felt it in her bones as she turned to look at him. Jay was still there, standing uncertainly, as if he were waiting for her invitation to come closer. Mira, I said now. Her father's voice sliced through the air, sharp enough to draw the attention of passers-by. Heads turned, whispers rose, and her face flushed with embarrassment. The gazes of the parents lingered, and an instinctive urge to comply tugged at her. But Jay, brave Jay, took a step forward. Mira, you don't have to. Mira, get in. Her father's urgency made it sound like a command, a prison sentence that left no room for argument. A maelstrom raged inside her. How could she abandon everything she felt for the chance to be with someone who understood her? What did everything mean, anyway? It was absurd, yet the way Jay looked at her, as if she were a light in the dark, ignited something fierce and defiant within her. Please, Jay urged, his eyes wide, searching for her trust. Don't let him decide for you. You have a choice. And that voice inside her, that tiny spark of rebellion, shouted louder than her father. The memory of laughter shared, of secrets whispered, it was all too precious to surrender to fear. Just as her resolve began to harden, the world swirled violently. A distant shout erupted. Hey, Mira! She turned instinctively, and the newcomer entered her line of sight. A boy, older than Jay, with a wild look in his eyes and a determination that screamed danger. Her chest tightened as he barreled through the throng, a whirlwind bearing ominous news. Mira! You need to listen. Mira's heart sank, dread curling in her stomach. What's wrong? She demanded, fear slicing through her defiance. The boy glanced nervously at her father, as if sensing the storm brewing, before focusing back on her. It's about Jay. You don't know who he really is, or what's at stake. What do you mean? Mira's voice trembled. She felt the ground beneath her shift like an earthquake, destabilizing her world further. Just listen. Jay isn't who you think he is, the boy insisted, his tone urgent. You have to trust me. Things are more complicated than you realize. Mira felt a shiver of confusion and disbelief. No, he's just Jay. He's kind. But the boy cut her off. You don't understand. There's a reason he's here. And if you don't walk away now, everything could change. Mira's breath hitched. She felt Jay's gaze boring into her, desperate and pleading. Mira, please don't listen to him, he cried, feeling the tension crackle in the air. This isn't the time. Uncertainty clawed at her. There was so much noise: her father, the whispers of judgment, Jay's anguish, And now this stranger with wild eyes declaring that her safe little world teetered on the edge of chaos. Her father shifted, sensing her hesitation. "Get in the car, Mira. Now." Jay stepped closer, his voice strong but tinged with desperation. "I swear, Mira, you can't listen to that guy. You know me." Torn between worlds, Mira locked eyes with both boys, feeling the weight of the moment compounding her choice. She saw loyalty in Jay's eyes, and yet the stranger's warning reverberated in her mind, growing louder, more menacing. This was at one moment to redefine everything she knew, but a shout rose from behind. "Stop!" The atmosphere thickened with uncertainty. Mira's heart raced even faster. Everything around her spun as she faced the potential fallout from this monumental choice. Would the truth save her or bind her to a fate she couldn't escape? Mira stood at the precipice, the ground crumbling beneath her. What would happen next could shatter her world into pieces or forge a new destiny. And just then, a hand reached out from the crowd, not hers, but determined to grab hold of her fate. Who would it be? And which path would she choose? Mira's breath caught as she felt the pull of that hand reaching for her, a connection like an electric current. She turned, her eyes meeting the dark, troubled gaze of the newcomer. He was tall, and the desperation etched on his face sent chills down her spine. "Mira, please," he shouted again. "I don't have much time." Instinct urged her to move, but her feet felt glued to the ground. Time stretched like a taut rubber band, ready to snap. Her father's grip tightened, his eyes flaring with fury. "This is unacceptable," he roared, launching forward as if he might drag her away faster than the storm brewing in her heart. Jay stepped forward, defiance igniting in his expression. "No, you can't just pull her away. She deserves the truth." "Truth?" The older boy laughed, a cruel sound that cracked like a whip. "You think you control the narrative here? You're in over your head." His confidence was unsettling, sending a ripple of anxiety through the gathered crowd. "What do you know about me?" Jay responded, fists clenched. His anger was palpable, filling the air with electricity. "You don't get to not here, not now?" Mira's brain buzzed with confusion. A part of her was terrified by the older boy's bold claims, while another part yearned for Jay's reassurance. But as her father's voice thundered in her ears, an ache blossomed in her chest. This was bigger than her. "Mira, listen, please," the boy urged, desperation lacing his voice. "Jay is part of something you can't begin to fathom. There are forces at play, things he's involved with that could put you in danger." Her heart sank. "Danger?" The words slipped from her mouth like a pebble in a quiet pond, sending ripples of dread across her mind. "Yes," he insisted, stepping closer, lowering his voice to a fierce whisper. "He's not just a boy from school. There are people searching for him, people who will stop at nothing to find him. And that means they will come for you, too." Mira glanced at Jay, searching for the truth reflected in his eyes. But all she saw was concern. "It's not true. I swear to you." "Mira, he's lying. We can get out of here. Just trust me." But doubt nestled uncomfortably in her chest. What if the boy was right? What if there was more to this than a simple summer crush gone wrong? And what about the world? She thought she knew the safety within the routine her father had built. "Mira, please," the older boy's voice rose again, cutting through her turmoil. "It's your choice, but you need to make it fast. If you stay with him, it could cost you everything." As she stood paralyzed, breathless, the world around her erupted into chaos. Parents were shouting, children were squirming with confusion, and the noise swelled like a tidal wave ready to sweep her away. "Mira, get in." Her father's snarl broke through, more a threat than a plea now. A cold shiver ran down her spine. She felt the reverberation of choice in her bones, one path leading to safety, the other to the unknown, pulsing with danger. But there was one burning question in her mind. Who truly was Jay? In that split second, it all felt like a house of cards teetering. Would she allow fear to dictate her future? Could there be hope hidden in the shadows lurking around Jay? And just as her mind raced with possibilities, the crowd parted like the Red Sea, revealing silhouettes in the distance. Figures clad in dark clothing approached, moving with purpose. Suddenly, it wasn't just the uncertainty of her decision that gripped her now. Shadows of danger drifted toward her like storm clouds, thickening her dread. Was her heart leading her toward a choice that could change her forever? Or toward a threat that could destroy everything she loved? The air crackled as she teetered on the edge, staring into the abyss of impending chaos. The moment loomed, and as the figures grew nearer, Mira had to decide. Would she leap into the unknown or retreat back to the safety of her father's world? Time felt suspended, the world holding its breath. Who would she choose to believe as her fate soon twisted into the fabric of reality? Mira's heart raced as the dark-clad figures loomed closer. Each step they took felt like an echoing drumbeat against her chest. The tension in the air thickened, wrapping around her like a tight garrote. She needed to act now. Mira. J's voice pierced through her muddled thoughts, desperation lacing every syllable. We have to go now? But could she trust him? The memory of the older boy's warnings flashed in her mind, vivid and insistent. He had spoken of danger, shadows, and secrets. What if he was telling the truth? What if Jay was more than he seemed? Mira. Her father snapped, his face flushed with anger, almost panicked. We are leaving. Don't let him influence you. As murmurs of fear rose from the crowd, Mira felt paralyzed, wrenched between two opposing forces. Her father's insistence on safety and J's urgent plea for truth. Listen to me, Mira. The older boy stepped forward, his eyes wild. There's no time for games. They're coming for him. They'll hurt you if you stay close. Suddenly, the figures advanced even faster, their intentions clear. They were dangerous, and she could feel the energy shift in the atmosphere, like a storm raging beneath the surface. Mira. J's pleading gaze held her captive, a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. We'll figure it out. I promise. Just trust me. Sensing movement behind her, she turned slightly. The crowd was now fully aware of the threat. Parents shielded their children, and panic was evident everywhere. Her world, once so safe and predictable, was unraveling at the seams. Tremors of fear coursed through her. Her father's authority, J's insistence that he could protect her, the dark figures closing in with determination. It felt like a riddle she couldn't solve. Do you trust him? The older boy demanded. Does he bring you joy or pain? It's a choice you must make, and you're running out of time. Time. The word hung heavy in the air. Mira looked at Jay, then at the boy whose message crackled with urgency. In that split second, everything shifted. The chaos blurred around her, and all she could focus on was the thud of her own heartbeat matching the frantic tension spiraling out of control. Then, as if a curtain was drawn aside, a burst of sound erupted: shouts, screams, the clamor of a panicking crowd. And then, a gunshot pierced the air, sharp and clear like a clarion call. Mira screamed, instinctively diving behind Jay as a wave of terror crashed over her. The world fell into chaos as people scattered, some tripping over one another in their haste to escape. Stay close, Jay yelled, pulling her toward a dark corner between two vending stalls. They huddled there while the sharp tang of fear filled her lungs. Mira, he whispered, his voice trembling. We may not have a choice. We need to move. But the figures were already on them, closing the distance, their intentions masked in darkness. Another shot rang out, this time closer. A scream erupted, and her heart pounded in her chest like a war drum. Now, Jay urged, taking her hand and pulling her down a narrow path where the shadowed edges of the fair loomed. They ran, urgency propelling them forward. Behind her, Mira glimpsed the older boy still standing, eyes wide, scrambling to warn others. But there was no time to second-guess. Adrenaline surged, pushing her forward, toward the unknown. Every instinct told her to keep moving. But as they dashed deeper into the fair's maze of tents and laughter, the lingering question gnawed at her. Could there be safety in the unknown? And then, just as they rounded a bend, they stumbled upon something that made them both stop in their tracks: a heavy metal door, slightly ajar, leading into darkness. Mira, we need to decide, Jay urged. We can go in there, or we can face whatever is coming after us. But we can't stay out here. The wind howled like a beast, beckoning them toward shadows, and Mira's breath quickened. What lay beyond that door? Safety, or a trap of despair? With every fiber of her being, she marveled at the height of the stakes. In this moment, everything coalesced into a singular thought. What awaited them in the darkness? And with that question burning in her mind, she stepped forward, teetering on the edge of fate. Would this leap down the rabbit hole change everything? Mira hesitated, the door looming ominously before her. J's grip tightened around her hand, pulling her closer, urging her into that unforgiving dark. Shadows flickered as the wind howled, stirring thoughts of what could be lurking just beyond the threshold. Fear churned in her stomach like a storm. Are you ready? J's voice was barely more than a whisper, strained but resolute. Mira could see the determination in his eyes, the overwhelming sense of urgency that mirrored her own. The chaotic screams from the fair faded into the background, replaced by the weighty silence of impending danger. She glanced over her shoulder, but the dark figures moved swiftly through the swirling crowd, their faces obscured. They were still coming, hunting, and in that moment, indecision shattered into resolve. Mira, if only his voice could wash away the fear, the doubt, but it didn't. She had to make a choice, and the clock was ticking. Let us do it. A breathless nod surged up her throat. Without letting go of Jay's hand, she stepped into the darkness, surrendering to the unknown. Inside, the air felt cooler, heavier. The door groaned as they pushed it fully open, shutting off the panic of the world outside. A faint flicker of light illuminated a narrow corridor strewn with scraps of old paper and the faint stench of mildew. They moved cautiously, hearts pounding in sync, footsteps echoing like whispers of a secret long buried. Do you think we lost them? Mira asked, glancing back as if the shifting shadows might come for them still. Jay shook his head, brow furrowed. I don't know, but it's safer in here for now. They pressed on, deeper into the bowels of whatever this place was. The flickering light grew dimmer, and Mira felt her breath come in shallow bursts. Noises from outside were muffled now, a haunting reminder of what lay beyond their chosen sanctuary. As they reached the end of the corridor, it opened up into a wide, low-ceilinged room filled with forgotten relics, a rusting bicycle, old carnival signs peeling and faded, remnants of a past that seemed to whisper stories of its own. But something caught her eye, a glimmering object partially hidden beneath a layer of grime. With a flicker of hope, she bent down and brushed off the dirt, revealing a small pendant, intricately designed, oddly familiar. It shone like hope in the shadows. Mira, we can't waste time. We have to keep moving, Jay urged, pulling her to her feet. But look at this. She held up the pendant, its warmth surprising against the coldness of her surroundings. Later, J's impatience jolted through her, but her fingers slackened around the necklace, an inexplicable connection pulling at her heart. Then, surprisingly, a loud crash echoed from the corridor, causing Mira to jump. The heavy door they had just entered from rattled violently. A fresh wave of panic flooded her. They're here, she gasped, her wide eyes darting around for escape routes. J's posture shifted, instincts kicking in. We have to hide. Now. As the massive footsteps approached, tension filled the small room. Mira's fingers curled around the pendant, the urgency of their situation melding with the curiosity it sparked. Where? Mira rushed to find a place to shield them both. A series of shadows loomed smaller behind an old tarp hanging from the wall. Over there. Jay gestured, his tone clipped. They dove behind the tarp just as the door swung open with a slamming force, and shadows flooded in. Mira's heart pounded louder than the crashing footsteps. The figures moved into the room, their voices a low murmur, intense yet muffled. She could see their silhouettes through the thin cloth. There were at least 3 of them, and the tension twisted in her gut. What do they want? She dared to whisper, curiosity mingling with fear. I don't know, Jay hissed, his eyes darting. But we can't stay here. If they find us, every syllable filled the air with dread. And then Mira remembered the pendant, its strange warmth now a welcome reassurance against the panic. What secret did it hold, and why was she drawn to it? As the figures searched the room obliviously, a part of her felt the weight of an impending revelation looming just as closely as their pursuers. Mira J's voice broke the silence, pulling her from her thoughts. We need to think of a way out now. In the thickening shadows, their next move felt crucial, and she realized that whatever awaited them, both outside and inside her grasp, could very well alter everything. What had they stumbled upon in this haunted place, and what truths still lay ahead, waiting to be unearthed at their peril? The shadows shifted, and Mira held her breath as the figures drew closer. She could hear their muffled voices now, low and conspiratorial, like predators whispering secrets in the dark. Jay's grip around her waist tightened, his body pressed against hers, masking them under the tarp. Mira's heart raced, a frantic drumbeat driving adrenaline through her veins. "Did you check the back room?" one of the figures asked, voice distorted but filled with authority. "No one hides in a place like this," another replied, clearly mocking the very idea. Mira's pulse quickened. Did they know they were here? The pendant around her neck felt almost alive, pulsing with a warmth that contrasted with the chilling atmosphere. She stole a glance at Jay. His brows were knit tightly, as if he were weighing their options. Suddenly, one of the figures turned, coming dangerously close to their hiding spot. Mira's mind raced. What if he spotted them? Would they be dragged back into the chaos outside, trapped again? She swallowed hard, her throat dry, her stomach twisting. "Look over there," one shouted suddenly, pointing toward an old, broken window along the far wall. If they came in here, they might have slipped out. The trio moved away, and Mira exhaled slowly, relief flooding through her. But it was fleeting, the lingering dread still gripping at her chest. "They're not leaving," Jay whispered sharply, watching them intently. "We can't just wait. We need to get out of here." She nodded, still gripping the pendant, reluctance blending with fear. "But what if they see us?" "We'll have to take that chance," he replied, his voice steady despite the fear lacing his own eyes. "We have to move while we can." As the tension lifted, they slowly backed away from the tarp, carefully inching toward the room's farthest wall. Myra's knees felt weak, every brittle movement pulling her deeper into the uncertainty that loomed over them. She scanned the dim room, searching for an exit or anything that could help them escape. The weight of the pendant around her neck intensified, compelling her attention to its swirling patterns. An odd sensation crept in, tugging at her gut. The pendant felt almost like it was urging her to remember, to connect. What history lay within its charms? "Mira?" Jay's voice broke through her thoughts again. "Move." Guided by instinct, she slipped off toward the window, leaving the shadows behind only to find herself in another shadowed enclave, small and cramped. The sunlight barely made its way through the dirty glass, but the fresh air wafting through stirred faint hope. Just as they reached the window, they heard more crashing from the hallway. Louder this time, a flurry of footsteps racing back toward them. Myra's heart sank. "Now what?" she hissed, panic swelling within her like a tidal wave. "We need to climb out. It's our only shot," Jay urged, glancing back as the figures drew nearer. Mira could see the panic reflecting in his eyes, and it fused with her own. Climbing over the sill felt like courting danger, but the noise behind them stirred something primal in her. She quickly peered out to assess the drop when an icy hand clasped her shoulder. A gasp escaped her lips, frozen in a moment of terror as she spun around. But it wasn't a figure from the shadows, it was the reflection in the shattered glass of the room across from her. Suddenly, the door burst open, and 3 men surged in. Not shadows anymore. They were solid, menacing figures in black. As the remaining light dimmed, Mira realized with horror their eyes glinted with a predatory gleam. "Found you," one of them growled, the smirk spreading across his face, chilling her to the bone. Just when all seemed lost, something inside her surged. It was the pendant, pulsing with a heat that reached deep within her, a connection sparking with potential. "What do I do?" she muttered. Fear mingled with defiance. As Jay prepared to shove her out of the way, she made a choice. "Hold on, Jay." As the darkness closed in, she did the one thing that felt right. She clutched the pendant tightly and shouted, "Stop!" And then, everything changed. What would happen next? What power lay dormant in that pendant? And what secrets would it reveal? Mira felt the air shift, an electrifying pulse that reverberated through her. The men paused, their movements halting as if a force had pressed against them, solid and unyielding. It was unexpected, bewildering. What the one of them began, clenching his fists. Confusion flickered in their eyes as they strained against whatever had rooted them in place. The pendant throbbed with power, each beat mirroring her bewildering heartbeat. She didn't know how to unwrap this strange magic it held, but it felt as if the very essence of her determination flowed through it. Could she wield that force? "Run!" Jay yelled, his voice breaking through the haze of shock. He shoved her toward the window, urgency in his eyes. Yet, Mira couldn't move. A force tugged her back, anchoring her to the spot. She remained on the threshold of action, torn between fleeing and confronting the danger before her. "Look, they're not affected," one man shouted, glaring at his companions as they struggled to understand the turn of events. Mira could see their eyes, wide with fear and anger, and somehow that fueled her. "What do you want from us?" she challenged, finding her voice. It came out sharper than she anticipated, cutting through the tension. "Isn't it obvious?" The leader stepped forward, bravado veering like an unstable ship in a storm. "You have something we need." Those words cut through the thick air. Something they needed? The implication sent a shiver down her spine. What power did this pendant truly possess? Jay grasped her hand, his grip grounding her. "We need to move, Mira." Panic flickered in his voice like a bright flame ready to extinguish. "Wait," she breathed, staring at the men. "If I let you have it, you'll just leave us alone, right?" The leader narrowed his gaze, as if weighing the truth in her plea. "You have no idea what you're standing in front of. Hand it over, and in what?" Mira interrupted. "You'll just hurt us anyway?" The air crackled again, a well of power pooling in the pendant, and with it came clarity. She remembered. Stories whispered to her in dreams courage to stand against tyranny, strength derived from belief in oneself. Was it her bloodline? A connection to her past? "Let us go," she exclaimed, bewildered by her own rising conviction. "If you want it, come take it." Without waiting for a second thought, she raised the pendant higher, the sunlight reflecting on it, shimmering in stark contrast to the grim shadows around them. "Fool!" The leader spat, spurred by rage. He lunged, but the pendant flared to life. A brilliant light exploded outward, and the world seemed to slow, drawing back as if catching its breath. Jay pulled her back, their bodies sheltering beneath the glow that wrapped around them. The men stumbled, their forms shifting like smoke under the relentless brilliance, confusion morphing into terror. She couldn't let this stop, not now. Fueled by something greater than fear, she took a step forward. "I won't let you hurt anyone again." Suddenly, the blinding light surged, enveloping everything in a radiant burst, flooding the room with vibrant energy. Time paused, and for a heartbeat, she felt infinite bold, unyielding. Just as quickly, the light receded, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Mira dared to breathe as she blinked against the new dimness. The figures, those solid threats, vanished. Only shadows flickered where they had stood, swallowed by the room that suddenly felt much larger, devoid of danger. With trepidation, she turned to Jay, still grasping her hand. "What just happened?" I have no idea," he replied, eyes wide as he scanned the now empty room. "But we need to keep moving. They're not gone for good." Mira touched the pendant, still warm against her skin. What had she unleashed? "We can't stop now. We have to find out what this is," but even as she spoke, unease gnawed at her. What other forces were at play? If they uncovered the truth about the pendant, what else might be unleashed? She took a deep breath, determination wrapped around her like armor. "Then let us go?" As they slipped through the old window, the weight of uncertainty loomed behind. Whatever lay ahead would challenge everything they thought they knew. But little did they know, the darkness was far from over. What awaited them on the other side? What truths would unravel in their desperate pursuit of freedom? Myra's heart raced as she and Jay clambered through the narrow window, landing on the cool grass outside, still warm with the fading sunlight. Behind them, the shouts faded, replaced by the distant echoes of a park that seemed agrarian compared to the chaos within. They paused, breathless and panting, the remnants of fear still gnawing at their chests. "Are we safe?" Jay asked, scanning the area, his eyes darting like a hawk's. Mira looked back over her shoulder, feeling the weight of the pendant against her chest. Its warmth pulsed, like an inviting heartbeat tied to her very existence. "For now," she replied, half hopeful, half fearful. The streets were quieter here, but she knew danger could strike any moment. They took tentative steps forward, inching away from the shadows of the fair, their laughter now just distant, muffled sounds. Myra's mind raced with questions about the pendant, about Jay, and even about her father. Would he come looking for her? Did he know what their family was mixed up in? "Mira, I need to know the truth," Jay stammered as they found a secluded spot behind the massive trunk of an oak tree, its branches forming a protective canopy. "What did you feel back there when you held the pendant?" The question hung in the air, circling between them like pollen in spring. She hesitated. What could she say? Her fingers traced the intricate designs on the pendant, those exquisite, swirling shapes that felt so familiar yet arcane. I don't know. It just called to me, she confessed. I felt something powerful, like it knew me, knew what I needed to do. J's face paled. It's not just a necklace, is it? No, she whispered, dread creeping through her veins. It's a piece of something bigger. Before she could delve deeper into the chilling implications, laughter erupted from behind them, a group of children, playing tag, blissfully unaware of the storm that had passed just moments before. Seeing their lightness made Myra's heart ache. She wanted to feel that carefree joy, but shadows lingered, whispering harsh reminders that it wasn't meant for her. Mira, a familiar voice called out, and she turned sharply. Her heart sank. It was her father, his stern face pushing through the throng that swirled at the park's exit. Fear danced in her chest at the sight of him, and she swallowed hard. There he was, a man wrapped in authority and expectation, a soldier of his own world. Get over here, he shouted, the authority of his voice commanding obedience. No, Jay blurted, gripping her wrist. He'll only pull you back into that life. Mira, you saw what he did to you before. Her breath quickened. She felt torn, two lives crumbling at the edges, pulling her apart. But he is my father, she uttered. The bond was instilled deep within her, forged through years of emotional labor, a bond shadowed but magnetic. Family isn't always loyalty, Mira. It's about connection, kindness, understanding, Jay urged, his hands trembling around hers. You deserve to choose your path. This is your moment. Don't let him define you. Her pulse pounded like a drum, matching the intensity of Jay's fierce gaze. In that moment, she felt time freeze again, and her thoughts collided headlong. Did she want to return to the suffocating silence of expectation, or would she step into the chaos where her heart pulled her? As her father started advancing, fury broke across his hard features. Mira, I said now. The demand rolled over her, heavy and palpable, but she found her weight beneath it, solid and unyielding. No, the word escaped her lips, stronger than she anticipated. For the first time, the bond she felt to her father flickered. I can't keep doing this. I can't live through you anymore. The heat of her voice surprised even herself. Mira stepped forward, her heart thundering as she broke from J's grasp and faced her father. She wasn't an extension of his will. She was her own person, capable of forging her own destiny. Do you hear me? She insisted, her blue eyes unwavering, mirroring the strength of flames that had ignited within her. I want the chance to choose my own friends, to choose my own life. The park fell silent, every pair of eyes turning toward them, whispers cascading like autumn leaves falling. Her father's rage twisted the air, a storm cloud gripping the skies. You think this is a game? You know nothing of the consequences. His voice was deep, threatening, but she stood tall, bolstered by the certainty that had fused in her mind. No, you know nothing about me, she shouted. Not really. I'll choose my friends, and one of them is Jay? I choose him. The crowd gasped, a collective breath sealing the air, and in that moment, Mira felt something shift. It was like an unspoken pact forming. She could feel the weight of judgments and expectations lifting. Jay stepped closer, his smile breaking through the tension, lighting up the darkness. I'm with you, Mira, he whispered, grounding her. Always. As if the universe turned its ear, Mira felt the energy of that pendant resonate through her, opening doors in her heart that had been locked away for too long. A surreal wave washed over her as her father stood still, disbelief etched across his face, a titan suddenly trapped. You don't mean that? His voice cracked, and in that moment, she knew she had to take the leap. She turned away from him, drawing strength from J's presence. Watch me, she declared, the two of them stepping forward together. The path stretched out before them, filled with uncertainty, yet embracing the powerful whisper of freedom. With the trees swaying gently overhead and the last rays of the sun dancing across their skin, Mira took a deep breath. She felt the weight of the attachment to her past, but it faded gradually, replaced with buoyancy born of choice. And then, hand in hand, they began to walk away from shame, from fear, into the dawn of new beginnings, where the echoes of their laughter would drown out the storm. Mira's heart swelled with hope as they left behind the park that had held her captivity, carving a new chapter into their lives. Slowly, she turned back one final time, offering a silent farewell to a part of her life she was ready to shed. Their future was uncertain, but together, they would search for the truth hidden within the shadows, emerging with courage she never knew she had. As they walked into the sunset, she realized it was not the pendant that held the true power. It was the love between friends, the willingness to face whatever came next, and the bravery to choose who you are meant to be. With Jay beside her, for the first time, the world felt wide open, a canvas for dreams to be painted anew. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Help me out. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to support the channel and become part of our amazing community.